Why is Dragon Ball so powerful, guys? What was it that inspired us when watching it from our very, very early years that lives with us into our adulthood today? Well, in today's video, I'm going to break it down, and I'm also going to try my best to apply real life lessons and help those who really are going through a tough time, because I understand that life is hard, and it's something that I didn't quite understand in my youth. I didn't quite understand how much harder life gets as you get older, and everybody who's learning this and going through it yourselves, you're all nodding your heads in agreement, because I doubt there's one human being on the planet that would disagree with that statement that has really lived life. But what I'm going to talk about today is I'm going to bridge the gap of how Dragon Ball teaches us very simple and basic life lessons that help us navigate through these things, and what made it a show that was really awesome, especially for its time. And one of the things that made Dragon Ball so powerful is the fact that it teaches us resistance. And what I mean by resistance is it shows that regardless of how horrible the situation is, the characters will always do their absolute best, and Toriyama always put characters in certain situations to bring out the absolute most tension at every single sequence. Now, there might be some differences, but, for example, if our characters were just stronger than the villain and then just beat them so simply, the show wouldn't be good. And the reason why the show was so awesome was because of the tense, difficult situations where you're like, how is Son Goku and his friends going to get out of these certain situations? And to be specific, guys, one key thing that I thought about off the top of my head would have to be Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. If Gohan just had a conventional battle with Super Perfect Cell and then just beat him in a conventional fight, it wouldn't have the same effect as Gohan having his arm busted, and Gohan starting to lose confidence, and Gohan being a child in such a dangerous situation against a stronger version of Cell, and then all of his friends are jumping in to help, but they're useless, which was more the anime thing, which is why I think the anime version is better than the manga, whereas in the manga, Vegeta was the only one that just helped. It's a situation like that where you watch it and you think to yourself, how awesome was that beam clash between Gohan and Cell? You know what I'm saying? And looking at another situation too, when Goku was fighting against Piccolo Jr. Piccolo, from what we know in Dragon Ball, in the 23rd tournament, and he gets blasted in his chest, but he still manages to find a way to defeat the fight. Or, Kid Goku fighting Piccolo Jr. where his arm is completely busted, but he still finds a way to do it. It's the situations like this in life where you're put through a serious challenge and you fight. You fight back against all of your demons, all of the demons that you're secretly battling. You put up a resistance to know, I'm not going to go down without a fight. And that's what makes Dragon Ball so powerful, and that's what makes Dragon Ball such an awesome show for especially younger guys to watch, and even sticking with us until our later years, because it's that sense of, I'm not going to go down. Another great example, Future Gohan knows he can't beat the androids, especially in the manga, but he goes into that fight with one arm against, at least in the anime version, two different androids that are more powerful than him, but he fights to the absolute best of his ability, and he dies like a hero. It's a situation like that where you look at it and you're like, wow, this guy knew he was going to lose, but he didn't want Trunks to die, and he did the best that he could to save 10 people. His life is more valuable than most people in the universe relative to what he can do in power, but he didn't think that way. He put his life above others, and he sacrificed it to do the betterment of other people in his future timeline. And I feel like it's situations like that you're like, wow, that's resistance. And resistance doesn't always work. Sometimes you're going to lose battles, but you have to keep fighting. And that's one of the things that makes Dragon Ball so awesome, and that's something that takes me into another point here, guys, that I want to talk about. Dragon Ball teaches us what happens when we're weak, and it shows us the ultimate consequence of life itself, which is the fact that you die. Or something bad happens to you, you get injured, somebody close to you dies. You making a stupid decision can affect somebody else in your life. Another great example, the Cell games. Gohan making a weak decision of not killing Cell when Cell was definitively weaker than him led to his father having to sacrifice his life in order to save the day, and led to a much more difficult outcome in Gohan having to defeat an even stronger Cell later on. It shows you that when you make weaknesses, you are accountable for your actions. And sometimes you're going to bump into somebody who's just stronger than you, and there's nothing you can do about it. And another great example of that would be the fight between Goku and Beerus. Even though Beerus isn't technically a villain, that was a great example of Goku did the absolute best that he could to defend planet Earth. And Beerus was stronger than him the entire fight, but Goku gave it his absolute all. And unfortunately, Beerus was just stronger, and if Beerus didn't have a good heart, Goku would have been dead. But it also shows you, too, that sometimes your adversaries aren't going to completely finish you off. You might inspire, as at least with the case with Goku and Beerus, your enemy to respect you. You can garner the respect of your opponent by fighting to your absolute best. And we see this a lot in sports, where you'll see teams that are blowing one team out, but one team will just keep trying over and over and over again over the course of 4 quarters in basketball, football. If you're playing 9 innings in baseball, one team will just keep fighting back over and over and over again until eventually they can either cut the deficit down, or they'll come back and actually win the game itself. And the game that I thought about off the top of my head that directly correlated to this would have to be the Super Bowl. I believe it was the 2013 Super Bowl between the 49ers and the Ravens, where if you go back and you remember that game, I mean, granted, a lot of people put controversy on that game because the lights went out and there was an extended halftime, but the 49ers were getting destroyed by the Ravens, and they came back in the second half and they were a completely different team, and they almost came back and won. They just came a little bit short. And I don't remember what the exact deficit was. There's an even better example that I just thought about when Tom Brady was down against the Atlanta Falcons 28-3. And then, I mean, granted, a lot of things had to go well for the Patriots, but they were down 16 and Brady had to score 2 touchdowns with 2 two-point conversions, and the Patriots somehow come back from that. It's that fire that's lit under you in Dragon Ball that shows you the consequences of what happens when you make mistakes, and you have to be accountable for your actions, but it also shows you to give the ultimate resistance no matter what you're going through in life. And I understand, guys, a lot of you guys are going through a horrible time in life. I definitely understand, and I don't know what your specific problems are, and if you'd like to share them in the comment section, by all means, I won't make fun of you, but it's one of those situations where we all have these things, and I feel like that's one of the hard things about, stoicism and, in the world that we live in today, that we go through so many things, but we just have to put up a straight face and act like nothing's happening to us in the background. I understand the difficulty in doing that, and I'm speaking to those that really struggle in doing this. I've been fighting a lot of demons, but I've figured out ways to upload consistently regardless of whatever I'm going through. I'm showing strength even, in my darkest moments. I still have problems going on, but I don't let them consume me the way that the younger Aquaman that didn't have that ability knew how to do. The younger Aquaman allowed the darkness to swallow him like a huge dark hole. And I'm making Yu-Gi-Oh! Reference for anybody who remembers how powerful that card was when you could just nuke the whole field. But the point I'm trying to say is, as I've gotten older, I've just built up my walls, and yeah, this is going to be tough, but who am I if I'm going to allow this to defeat me? Which leads me to another key point that I want to give to you guys of using anger as a weapon. I feel like a lot of people don't realize the value that Dragon Ball teaches in this lesson of using anger as a weapon, where use somebody who pissed you off. Use something bad that happened in your life to light an even greater fire under you and to explode, but to use that controlled energy in a way to do something productive. So something bad happened to you. It could be a whole bunch of things, something at work, a relationship you had, who knows what you're going through in your life. But use that, and that's what Dragon Ball characters do all the time, where Goku talks about the pain of loss, which is more of a dub thing, but I actually felt that was a good dub thing that we learned about the pain of loss. How learning from all of the pain that you've had in the past, and you use that power to project yourself to a higher level that will allow you to handle your situation at a greater rate than you were handling at before. I feel like that is the ultimate calling card for a lot of men out there who have really been struggling in life, to use your anger productively. All of us have anger, and that's one of the things about men. We all get angry. But it's how you use your anger in a productive way to get revenge. You create enemies. You know, one thing that I could also suggest here too is make up a reason to get mad. But make up a reason to get mad in a positive way that will motivate you to use your anger to supplant something in your life that you've never even known you could do. And I also feel like in one of the key examples I could use you for direct advice is Dragon Ball characters always trade. You could do the same thing as a human. You're not going to be as strong as them, obviously. They have fictional powers. But use your anger in a way that you can go to the gym. You could work out. You could do cardio. Do something productive with your life, with your anger. And that exercise and motivation will work perfectly because when you're angry, trust me, guys, I work out way better when I'm pissed off. When I'm angry and I do other things in my life, which I can't say publicly on YouTube, but I do other tricks to my body to get myself more worked up, if you can kind of read between the lines. I do those things, and when I work out, I do way more weight, I could do way more reps, I'm just way stronger, I feel like a Superman. I really do feel like Superman sometimes, which, I mean, I probably shouldn't use the word Superman after Goku just lost them again, but you get my point that I'm saying it here. You know, so honestly, you know, I feel like we can't allow our emotions to be our kryptonite, you know. We can fight against that. And that's what I would say about anger. And my last message in this video, because I don't want this to get too long, but my final message to you guys is to not only keep fighting your demons, but to also analyze what will happen if you don't. Because we're all gonna die one day, guys. It's one thing that we have to admit. Now, you can have your own different beliefs about what will happen, but we're all gonna die. So I want you guys to hear this question as a final message to you. If you know that we're all gonna die, how are you going to feel looking at your life if you could somehow see your life or see what happened to your life after you died, knowing that you died as a coward that didn't give the absolute best fight that you possibly could have given that fight while you were still alive?